Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for today, Tuesday, August 13th, if you're joining me for the very first time. First of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over my core picks, which is going to be one pitcher, four hitters. It's going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. Then after that, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about the top GPP teams that I do have to stack for tonight's slate overall. That cheat sheet is 100% free, and it can be found on Facebook, it can be found on Twitter, and it can be found on the YouTube community tab. So definitely feel free to use it as you're building out your lineups for tonight's slate overall. But without further ado, we'll get started with the core picks for tonight. So at the pitcher position, not a lot of high-priced pitchers tonight, so I'm going to make for a pretty interesting slate. It's actually a really small Tuesday slate just in general, but we are going to go with Paul Blackburn at $8,300. He goes against the Oakland A's, and that is his former team, so there's not much history there in the past. Abraham Toro is really the only hitter on this A's team that has faced him before, and Paul Blackburn's pitched really well since he came over to this Mets team, so back-to-back good starts for him just in general. But if we look at what he's done on the season in totality, 5 wins. Here he's at 3.86, averaging about 28 fantasy points per game at $8,300. Definitely looking for some of that strong upside out of him. Obviously, if you look a little bit further into what he's done, it's been pretty good since he's been with this Mets team overall. Then we're going to move down to our hitters. We'll start off at first base with Josh Bell, $2,800. Been a popular pick as of late in the core picks, but he's been doing really well as of late. And he's going against the Colorado Rockies tonight. It is Austin Gomber as the expected starting pitcher. He is 3 for 8 with 1 home run versus Gomber in his career. He has at least 1 hit in 6 out of his last 7 games, 4 multi-hit games during that time span, 2 home runs, and then he also has 4 double-digit performances during that time span. So definitely like that upside out of Josh Bell once again at $2,800. And if we look at what he's done so far on the season, 243 average, 18 home runs, 56 RBIs, averaging about 9 fantasy points per game at $2,800. And then we're going to move down to second base with Luis Arraez at $2,900. You could also technically play him at first base. He's only averaging about 8.5 fantasy points per game. There was a little bit of a slow start to the season, but you know it's the hit king himself, Luis Arraez, and he is going against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and it is expected that Luis Ortiz will be the starting pitcher for this Pittsburgh team tonight. Although that could change. We thought yesterday it was going to be Marco Gonzalez, ended up being Jake Woodford, so we'll keep an eye on that. But if it is Luis Ortiz, 4 for 7 versus him in his career, he's on a modest 4-game hit streak as we do speak. 3 multi-hit games during that time span, no home runs, as Luis Arraez doesn't offer too much in the power department, but does have 3 double-digit performances in those last 4 games. So definitely do like kind of that solid, safe play of Luis Arraez, hitting for a little bit more in terms of the potential. If we look at what he's done so far in the season, 306 average, 3 home runs, 33 RBIs, once again averaged about 8.5 fantasy points per game at $2,900. Looking to get double-digit points out of him at that $2,900 tonight. And then we'll move over to shortstop with Corey Seager, $3,500, averaging about 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He goes against Cutter Crawford. He is 4 for 8 with 2 home runs in his career versus Cutter Crawford in his career. And if we look at what Corey Seager's done as of late, a little bit more hit or miss, but he is on a modest 2-game hitting streak, 2 multi-hit games during that time span, 1 home run. Both games were double-digit performances. And then if we take a further look into what Corey Seager's done so far this year, 274 average, 25 home runs, 61 RBIs, once again averaging about 11 fantasy points at $3,500. Definitely like the upside that he could offer versus Cutter Crawford tonight. And then last but not least, we're going down to Corbin Carroll at $3,400, averaging just under 10.5 fantasy points per game. Goes against the Colorado Rockies and Austin Gomber. Once again, he has 4 for 8 versus Gomber in his career, so some really good history there to be had at that. It's on a modest 3-game hitting streak as we do speak. Only 1 multi-hit game during that time span, but does have 2 home runs and 2 double-digit performances. And obviously, Corbin Carroll is a guy that started off really slow to the season, but he's up to a 218 average, 11 home runs, 46 RBIs. Once again, averaging just under 10.5 fantasy points per game at $3,400. Has shown some pretty significant upside as of late. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $14,100 remaining, just over $3,500 per player. So definitely the ability and flexibility to pay up for a star player if that's something you really want to do. Otherwise, if you want to go with a little bit more of a balanced build the rest away from there, you can definitely do that as well. Or you can trade up from Paul Blackburn up in price tag at pitcher, whether that's Nestor Cortez. Good matchup versus the White Sox, but been a little bit more hit or miss as of late. Or if you want to go up to Seth Lugo at $9,200, who has pitched pretty well versus the Twins this season and last year as well. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. So once again, the cheat sheet is 100% free. It can be found on the YouTube community tab, Facebook, and Twitter. So definitely feel free to use it as you're building out your lineups for tonight's slate overall. But with that being said, the three teams that I do have in terms of top GPP stacks for tonight, we have the Boston Red Sox going against Jose Urena. Urena has not been that great throughout his career for the most part, and he struggled through a start earlier this year versus Boston. Not that much history versus him in the past, but if you want to get to Rafael Devers, Wilyer Abreu, a couple different options there to be had at that. And then on the opposite end of that game, if you want to get to the Rangers versus Cutter Crawford, they have hit him pretty well in the starts that he's made versus them. Whether that is Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Nathaniel Lowe, Ezekiel Duran, if he ends up in that starting lineup. A lot of different options that you can turn to from that Rangers lineup. And then last but not least, we had the Arizona Diamondbacks going against Austin Gomber. Pretty much all the Arizona Diamondbacks players have hit Gomber pretty well in the past. So if they are a player starting for the Diamondbacks tomorrow, you can probably play them in some lineups, mix and match a lot of different four-man stacks from that Diamondbacks team in general. Probably going to be a pretty popular one, but definitely do like the upside of them overall. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown in terms of my core picks and top GPP teams to stack for Tuesday, August 13th. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then, as always, I'll be leaving all the updates down there as well, whether that is weather-related, starting pitcher-related, which we've had a little bit more as of late, as well as all these starting lineups as they do get announced throughout the afternoon and early evening. So definitely be sure you're checking up down there as we do get closer to lock. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have MLB DFS in terms of the core pick videos Monday through Friday. And then I do also have my CFL DFS video coming out once a week, typically on Wednesdays. So feel free to check that out if that's something you're into as well or want to check out for the very first time. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for Prize Picks, Parlay Play, and BetUS. If you are a brand new user on any one of those three sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match on your first three deposits. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. And then with that being said, if you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.